And now, for a session produced by our underwriter, please welcome Shannon Schuyler, PwC's Chief Purpose Officer.
Hello, all. First of all, I have to give a shout out to Bombas socks. So we are huge advocates of Bombas socks and just finished giving a whole bunch of them away as part of our health and wellness. So as people did a walk, they also gave socks to be able to help specifically the veteran community. So I know a side shout out, but when I saw them up here, I had to say it because they're a phenomenal organization. And certainly when we talk about purpose, an organization that is so rooted in purpose. And so I know that's been the conversation for today, and we're going to continue that a little bit. And I wanted just to give you a little bit of background and how this conversation is going to go. For us, when we look at PwC at purpose, we really focus it on being our North Star. When all of us, when we think about purpose, it is our North Star. It is that motivational force that drives who we are, what decisions we make, and what that's going to look like, and that's uniquely us. For companies, it needs to be the same thing. It's why they exist, not what they create, but why they create it. And it's something that is to bring humanity to the products and services that are out there so it can optimize impact, and that impact has to go much further today than revenue generation, but also what can that organization do to really benefit society in some way. It helps a company when they start to think about, can we be purpose-led? It moves them from being transactional in nature, from saying, how do we check the box on these things we need to do on a monthly basis, to how can we be transformational? Because companies now, regardless of the industry, are trying to find ways that they can challenge the status quo. They can be disruptive. They can find out new things to be able to do and to get to places that we're in desperate need of finding the solutions for. Purpose, when companies start to harness it, you're able to bring together the very human element, a very human sense of wanting to be fulfilled, wanting more than just be able to get a paycheck, wanting to feel that you belong someplace meaningful, to what that company does and to their skills and to leverage their expertise in such a meaningful way that it will enable us to really see those intersections between business and society. So why is this so important now? Why more than ever are CEOs and companies talking about purpose? Well, when you look at the issues that we're all trying to take over and to challenge ourselves to be a part of, they're huge. Right? You think about issues related to global warming, climate change. Nothing's going to happen unless business finds a way to be a part of that discussion. Government alone is not going to solve for that. When you look at issues around urbanization and realize that over the past 20 years, more people have moved into cities than the cities could ever support. In order to be able to support the infrastructure, the education, the hospitals just growing, it's going to take businesses to invest in cities and communities in ways they never have, because again, alone, we're not going to be able to look at government. But there's two specific issues that we at PwC are really looking at and focusing and putting really that notion around purpose to a test. And one is around demographic shifts. And certainly there's a lot of shifts that are happening. And so you can look at whether it's the number of people that are going to be born to the planet, the number of people who are over this age of 65, which is growing. But the one I want to focus on is just look in the US today. So by 2030, the majority of young workers in the US will be people of color. Generation Z is the most racially diverse generation that we have ever seen by far. You have almost 50% of them that are identifying themselves with something other than non-Hispanic whites. And by 2044, the majority of America will be people of color. Whites will be in the minority. Now, you look at that demographic trend, and you pair that up with what we're seeing happening in technology. So, I mean, just think about the speed of technology and what's gone on, right? It took 75 years for there to be 50 million users of the landline phone. It took 10 years for there to be 50 million users of the mobile phone, 19 months for 50 million people to get on Twitter, and 5 days for 50 million people to download Pokemon Go. Oh, and there is my 6-year-old son. So at all ages, we're looking at the speed of change happening, but what happens when you really pair that with what you're seeing from a demographic standpoint? Well, we know currently within the technology industry, 26% of those employees are women, 3% are Black, 1% is Hispanic. Yet we're looking at a society that is not going to look like that. We also know that as of today, 50% of all of our jobs entail some part of technology to be used. By 2020, 77% of all jobs out there will have some technology that is needed in order to be successful. Also by 2020, we will have 1 million more open jobs, technology related, that people can't fill because they don't have the skills. This past year, there were 528,000 open jobs available for computer scientists. We only had 49,000 people graduate with computer science degrees. So you look at this incredible growing industry and the ability to be able to harness the power of technology, yet you look at who is making up and who's not making up those people who have those roles. And so when we look at our purpose at PwC to build trust in society and to solve important problems, to us, this is a really significant problem, and one that we believe if we look at ourselves, we need to be able to solve for that. And so we're looking at it in 3 different ways. First, we've started what's called CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion. That was something that was kicked off almost a year and a half ago. Our senior partner CEO, Tim Ryan, started it. We have now 528 CEOs that have taken a step to say we have to change workforce diversity. Incremental steps will not work. If we can do $2 billion deals on the weekend, we can figure out how to have a more diverse and a more inclusive workplace. And they've committed to doing things like having difficult conversations within their walls, to doing unconscious bias training, and to sharing best practices, saying this is not about being competitive, this is a societal issue that we need to change. And so we focus on trying to create that sense of belonging, that sense of being inclusive, because that in and of itself, and letting people be able to talk about whether it's issues they've seen around race, whether it's issues around sexual harassment, what they feel around a shooting that's happened, to talk about this within the building, to talk about this to one another, to be able to create an environment that is a sense of belonging, that people can be themselves, and to lead from being inclusive to ultimately being more diverse. We're also looking at how do we upskill our own people. One of the significant issues around digital is people are worried about, what about my job? A robot's going to take it over. One of the things that we're committed to is our people will not be left behind. And so instead of looking for new people and other things to bring in, we're going to digital upskill all of our 55,000 people in the US. Every single one of them is a part of a digital fitness assessment where they figure out where they are. And then based on that, they get specific training around AI, around robotics, about drones, different things that are happening up there so they can be successful at PwC as we create new products and services, but they can be successful outside of the firm too and continue to grow and develop. We have digital accelerators that are helping people who have that knowledge, like my 6-year-old son, and sharing with people who don't have that knowledge to make sure we're all on the same page, because we believe that's our responsibility to make sure not only our firm, but wherever our individuals decide to go next, they're helping and they're moving technology forward. And then last, we're saying, what do we need to do, especially for those students and teachers? And so we have a $320 million commitment specifically focused on financial literacy to make sure that people are making good decisions about what they want to do, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year college, and how to pay for that, as well as saying, how can we get students who otherwise would not be interested in technology early on interested? And as a part of that, all of those digital fitness and all those assessments that we're doing internally for our own people, we're giving all of those for free to teachers, to say, we know you need help in understanding these different technologies, understanding how it works, and not only giving them what we have, but now sitting down with them and creating things specifically for them, saying we have to be a part of this solution. And this solution is looking at the demographics that we have and making sure that there is a path to the opportunities that are there with really good jobs in technology. So when you think about and you continue the sessions on purpose, this is about how companies can look within themselves and determine, how do you bring this sense of humanity that comes with just saying the word purpose? You can't help but think of yourself and what that looks like. How can you give your people that sense of fulfillment that then allows them to want to look at what your core skills of your organization is and to be able to build on that, so that intersection between society and business can be something that's more successful, certainly for the revenue of the organization, but even more importantly, more successful for all of us together as a society. So thank you very much, and thank you for allowing my 6-year-old to be here.